how did you have a race I'm on $25,000? I said, yeah. I said, but your mom had a cell phone. I said, you gotta stop.
Oh, that's what your daughter said.
My son got actually get married Saturday. My daughter is pregnant. And the guy's in the military and he's all like stationed in Hawaii and Maui.
Oh,
And so when we found out he was pregnant, he wanted to marry right away. So we went to Vegas this weekend and got.
oh my gosh, you're getting all kind of things done.
Now, her twins, her twin brother, he get married.
Oh, that's so, and that's your only.
Well, I said my message.
Yeah.
I can mind about the same time.
Good.
And but they're always slow because that's a new rule.
Okay.
So that and the guy that explained it, that's work. He
Yeah,
explained.
you gotta be proud.
And when I go somewhere, they didn't like, I mean, I'm used to just scanning and sending pictures. Good morning.
I'm used to picking up the phone and saying, "Can I have my car?"
Hey, I'm now like I want to talk to you. I just want to like order it. Thank you so much. Hey, this morning I was.
Oh, of course I did.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you? Good.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the October meeting of the LCTCS Board of Supervisors. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that the board meeting is being live streamed. With that, I'll turn to Chair Mount.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. So we'll call the October 4th, 2023 LCTC Board of Supervisors meeting to order. And I would like to ask, let's see, I was counting on Jamie, but she's not here, is she? No. All right. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and Supervisor Jackson, will you lead us in that?
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Jackson. A roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Chair Mount
Present.
is present. Supervisor Jackson,
Present.
Supervisor Burke is absent. Supervisor Bradford is absent. Supervisor Butler McIntyre will be here shortly, and I'll make a note of that. Supervisor Hollins is present. Supervisor Johnson is present. Supervisor Lee
Present.
is present. Supervisor McConduit is absent. Supervisor Murphy
Here.
is present. Supervisor Price is absent. Supervisor Salath is absent. Supervisor Smith
Here.
is here. Supervisor Toops is absent. Supervisor Wood is present. Supervisor Payne will be arriving shortly. I'll make a note of that. Supervisor Zarang will also be arriving shortly. At this moment, we do not have a quorum, but I will make sure to let you know when we do have a quorum established.
Thank you, Mrs. Poole. Members, we're going to go ahead and process. We'll skip anything that requires a vote until we have a quorum. And so with that, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you very much. We can move down to the chair of the board report, if you would like, which would be item G1. And we will return then to items D and E. D and E. So if you would like to go ahead with the chair of the board report.
Thank you. Well, first of all, we want to congratulate Chancellor Aspinwall and Sewella for their acceptance of the aircraft. I know we heard about that yesterday, but it was a beautiful ceremony, and we're very proud of Chancellor Aspinwall and the college, and wow factor. So a round of applause. Also to my other Willie, Chancellor Smith, at his inauguration ceremony and BRCC's 25th anniversary celebration on Friday, September 22nd. I know many of us were not able to attend, but those who did said it was absolutely perfect. So congratulations to your anniversary. And last but certainly not least, we want to officially recognize Erica Poole today as she conducts her first board meeting. So we really appreciate you and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. Dr. Sullivan.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. And we will turn our attention to the events of the last week. Many of you in this room were part of the LCTCS annual conference, our 25th year celebration. Kicked off this past week with our conference. I want to stop before I give you any numbers on what this conference looked like and tell you how it felt, because it felt incredible to me to be back, to be amongst our family, to be amongst people who have that same heart for the mission that you know and I know that we share. But most importantly to me, to have 10 members of this board that participated as a part of our annual conference is unprecedented. We have not seen that level of involvement from board members ever. So I would like to ask this crowd, how about a round of applause for this board? 25th year celebration. It was incredible to see well over 1,200 people that pre-registered, another 150 so that we saw on-site registration, well over 1,000 attendees for all of the plenary sessions. To look back in the back and to see standing room only, that's pretty impressive. that's what our organization is about. The energy was incredible. Looking back on it, it's one of those things that I think we're all probably still riding a few feet up off the floor because it just is so exciting to hear people talk about their own stories and how this mission is changing their lives. So I want to congratulate the team. And when I say team, that is not specific to the board office. I think about everyone from Anthony Brown in the back who I watched move heaven and earth to make that conference happen, not just this year, but every year. To Jennifer Daly, to the team that has so capably put together this event every year, Tori Roberson, who leads that effort for the Impact Awards. Wow, that event has become truly a signature event for us. But the last part, Thursday evening, is something that I have to pause and talk about because we have a real serious issue to deal with. Thursday evening, we had a bowling tournament, sold out the entirety of the 12 lanes. And in the midst of that, 14 lanes, I'm sorry. In the midst of that, one chancellor apparently paid off the clock keeper. And the LCTCS board team only got about a third of the time that everybody else got, but yet managed to score half the points of everybody else. So in front of us is a trophy that's closer to the board than it is to Willie Smith. While BRCC may have won this year's bowling tournament, trust me when I tell you, this board is going to be back next year. So from now on, when we talk about board appointees, we're going to ask for their bowling score. What is your bowling score? Can you be a part of this board? So in all seriousness, Willie, congratulations to Baton Rouge Community College on winning this year's tournament. We are also committed to, within this year, buying a head tall trophy that will travel from college to college with the logo, with the nameplate of each college that has won across time. It's important to create opportunities for us to be together and to create memories together around this mission. So, Chancellor, congratulations to Baton Rouge Community College. We will not note the asterisk that will be there historically. There'll be an asterisk on that one. Just saying. All right, let me turn, if I can, to another quick item that is just, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm going to ask Jim Carlson to come forward. Jim Carlson stops me and says, I really need to talk to you. Got to tell you about something that's going on at the college. So he tells me. And then a matter of a day or so, he says, just give me some time because I don't want to jinx myself. And so he sends me a text. Jim, I'm going to not tell them what the text said. I'm going to let you handle that part of it. But Jim is here today to share with the board that once again, an individual has come forward and said, I want to invest in the mission of community and technical colleges. It doesn't happen this way every day, folks. I want you to hear the story for yourself. Dr. Carlson.
Yes. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. So last week, this all happened. We received a phone call from an individual who is the assistant of a resident on the North Shore. And she said that her client wanted to provide a scholarship donation to the college. So we provided some information about how the scholarship program worked, as well as some of the matching funds opportunities through the Board of Regents. Well, we get a call on Friday, and it was from a lady by the name of Jeanette Thomason. And she said that she originally wanted to give us $100,000, but now she wants to give us $250,000 because of all the great things we can do. And Jeanette is the spouse of the late Alan Thomason, who owned multiple businesses, construction businesses, crop dusting, everything you can imagine. They had a whole list of things that they did in their lifetime. But his final business was he was the founding partner of DSLD Homes. So she met with us on Monday and pulled out her personal checkbook and wrote us a check for $250,000. Oh, wow. And she wants to do scholarships in the area of construction trades, teacher education, and then as well as first generation. So kudos to Jeanette Thomason for this outstanding opportunity for the students. She said she made a point that she didn't have the opportunity to go to college herself. Her parents and family couldn't afford it at the time. However, she always felt that higher education was a ticket for people to have an opportunity, and she wanted to help others. So that's where we are.
Awesome.
Any questions for Dr. Carlson?
Just keep it coming.
Well did.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Incredible work, and very proud of the signatures that North Shore is leaving on the community there and the people that are willing to invest. All right. I note that we have had our ninth board member join us.
Yes, sir. At this time, we have a quorum established. I would like to recognize Supervisor Butler McIntyre as present. Supervisor Wood, present. And Supervisor Zarang, present. We may
Very
proceed.
good. And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'll wrap up the college updates and toss it back to you, and we'll
Be good.
start back over. A couple of items up at Louisiana Delta that I want to mention to you. You have heard Willie Smith in particular talk so eloquently about the need of our student population to earn while they learn. Perhaps that is an apprenticeship model, but sometimes it's not an apprenticeship. Let me give you a couple of examples of what Louisiana Delta is doing to address this one. CNA classes, where individuals are being employed by an employer to go to school, to gain the CNA license, but earning while they're going to school. Again, it may seem like a very small shift or change. We have had those kinds of things going on at many colleges. But again, I just make the note to you, we're seeing this model shift in a way where we have to ensure individuals are able to make a living while they're going to school. Might also mention up at Louisiana Delta, the really interesting class that the folks at the Winsboro campus have put together. Have you ever thought about who sprays that little line on in your yard when you get ready to dig? Right? That is a certification. And that this campus has identified a need in their region to be able to identify the gas lines and electrical lines and the like. And so the college is offering up that one-day course. Those are the kinds of things that get someone from a minimum wage job to a much better circumstance really quickly. But it also allows them to have a certification that then can go along with perhaps a CDL or perhaps a heavy equipment operation certification. So all of those things together make them much more valuable to the marketplace. So congratulations to Randy and the team up at Louisiana Delta on some really good work there. Let me shift gears a bit to partnership at Delgado Community College, where the college has secured a $510,000 grant from the National Science Foundation through their Advanced Technological Education, or ATE program. The funding will be used to support the advancing progress in industrial biomanufacturing. Every one of us recognize that manufacturing is shifting. Biomanufacturing will be a critical piece. Look forward to seeing what Delgado will build in the future in that curriculum. Also, congratulations to Chancellor Larissa Littleton Staub, who's been honored by City Business through its annual Icon Awards. We all knew she was an icon long before City Business told us that, but congratulations to our Chancellor. Next off, at Sewella Technical Community College, where the college is celebrating its 85th anniversary. Neil, can I ask that you come to the table for a second and share the story of, as the college was going through its history. We know at Delgado, we just had a 100-year celebration, 25-year celebration at BRCC. As you go through these things, you learn about the organization. You learn about the importance of the institution. Neil, I'd love for you to share with the group what you learned.
Yeah, good morning, Chair Mount, President Sullivan, members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to just take a few seconds. Of course, this is Sewella's 85th anniversary, started in 1938, act of the Louisiana legislature as a Southwest Louisiana trade school. Of course, we've changed a great deal in those years, but as we were building and researching history for the organization throughout the 85 years, we came across some information that in 1941, by the request of the U.S. federal government, Sewella began to run 24 hours a day for 4 years to train workers for the war. And we trained 6,000 workers in a 4-year period from 1941 to 1945. Had no idea that that happened. So.
You know, as you think about the story of Sewella in the midst of World War II, the story of the Higgins boats being built right there on the Delgado Community College campus, I think when we look back across history, what we see is where there was strife, where there was heartache, where there were challenges, there too were our colleges. And when we think about things like saltwater intrusion, when we think about rebuilding the coastline, the issues of our time, again, our colleges are right there at the forefront. Very proud of the great work going on there. Also want to mention 3 separate $25,000 contributions to Sewella Technical Community College's foundation, from Procter & Gamble to Phillips 66, CSE Federal Credit Union. The list just goes on and on of contributors, right? The folks who are buying into this mission. Baton Rouge Community College, where not only is the college celebrating 25th year anniversary and the inauguration investiture, thank you, sir, of our Chancellor Willie Smith, but also the college managed to have its largest enrollment ever at 11,100 students. How about a round of applause for yours? And again, at North Shore Technical Community College has been awarded $1.499 million. That kind of sounds like $1.5 million to me, Jim, doesn't it, you? All right, for a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor's Workforce Opportunity for Rural Communities Initiative. Look forward to the work that is going on there. The programmatic area is advanced manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics. It's interesting to see how our colleges are beginning to take advanced manufacturing, which just 4 or 5 short years ago was a content area and vertical of its own. Adding to that, transportation logistics becomes a real discussion now about how we have just-in-time delivery. So we've been talking about just-in-time since the 80s. The reality is a lot of what is going on the marketplace today, we are just now reaching a place where we can automate just-in-time. Look forward to seeing what North Shore and the team does with this opportunity. Let's see, up at Bossier Parish Community College, where BIPSI's Testing Center receives National Military Achievement Award. Congratulations to Bossier Parish Community College, always a leader when it comes to serving our military. We also have a 100% pass rate for our LPN to RN program that Bossier Parish Community College has recently delivered. An incredible feat. Several of our colleges around the room have done that work around the LPN to RN. It is a heavy lift. It is exactly what it amounts to. So congratulations to the team at Bossier Parish Community College. And at Fletcher, where the college broke ground on the new Precision Agriculture and Advanced Manufacturing building at the Schriever campus in downtown Schriever. Where, as I understand it, the commissioner shared with me that there were a cast of characters who showed up. I'll leave it at that. I think Supervisor Smith may or may not have been included in that list, but in the Houma Thibodeau area, there are plenty of characters, right? But congratulations to the Fletcher team on that advancement, and look forward to seeing the institution continue to grow its physical footprint. All right, with that, Madam Chair, let's return to item D.
All right. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the October 4th, 2023 meeting agenda.
Second.
All right, is there any objection to the motion?
Motion by Jackson, seconded by Hollins.
There's no objection to the motion. That motion passes. Next, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the August 9th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion by Butler McIntyre, seconded by Wood.
Is there any comments or questions? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion passes. Okay, you want to go over the consent agenda?
Sure. So item F, I'll read the recommendation. Staff recommends that the board approve the consent agenda, which consists of item F1 through F3. It includes 2 separate affirmations of mission statement for both Nunez and Central Louisiana Technical Community College. It also includes a series of program changes at Sewella and at North Shore. Your motion?
Motion by Smith, motion by, seconded by Butler McIntyre.
All right, hearing no opposition, that item has been approved.
All right, we'll move then to Supervisor Mickey Murphy to present the academic action items for consideration by the board, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand that we have a couple of campuses that are prepared to give us accreditation update as far as the status of their individual institutions are. And I'd like to call Chancellor Sawtelle and Chancellor Spillers to the mic, please.
Very good. Welcome. And we'll start with ladies first, because I think Chancellor Spillers may have news that she wants to share with the board this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So we're very excited. We've been going through a couple of accreditation processes right now. And so we just completed the COE accreditation. And I feel like we did that with flying colors, and so proud of our team and all the hard work that they did to accomplish that. And we couldn't have done this without Bill Tulak. Certainly appreciate his support throughout all of that. And then I think one of the most exciting things is the fact that we are very close to getting our resubmit our application for after we met with our SACS team that told us some things that they want us to have in that. We will turn that application in January 15th, and with plans for them to take that to their board in June to set a date for our candidacy. So lots of things happening. Very excited about that and moving forward.
Chancellor Spillers is being a bit modest. As part of the accreditation process, our colleagues in Florida in the legislature decided that they would take a stab at the U.S. Department of Education and at the SACS organization. So they passed a bill that requires that every 5 years, colleges and universities reconsider their accreditation. As part of that, the U.S. Department of Education added a component to accreditation. Our friend Jim Carlson and Chancellor Wainwright didn't have to go through this step, but it was added for the two at the table. Chancellor Saltel was able to get his approval months ago because the process had not been developed. Unfortunately, Northwest winds up being one of the very first colleges in America to have to deal with the craziness of a Florida legislature that is driving the U.S. Department of Education to put hurdles in front of people. So over the last couple of weeks, between Bill Tulak, Chancellor Spillers, a number of folks throughout this organization, we finally got from the U.S. Department of Education what we needed on Friday. Recall that on Friday, when we left conference, there was a big discussion about whether the federal government would shut down. Can you imagine what a shutdown would have looked like over the weekend and the impact on Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College? And so we were able to push the envelope with the U.S. Department to say, get out of our way. Chancellor Spillers, I'm thankful to you for the leadership of not running against a brick wall, but instead running through a brick wall. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for your assistance.
Chancellor Saltel.
Good morning.
When the DJ can't figure out the sound, we got a real challenge, okay?
Good morning, Supervisor Mount, President Sullivan, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with y'all today, especially when we continue a report of the momentum. But before I do, it's not my story to tell, but if my dear friend Chancellor Spillers will allow me, she's even being more modest than Dr. Sullivan indicated. They had only one finding in their team visit for COE, and that is as close as you can get to an imperfect 10 in gymnastics. Even the Russian judge gave her a 10. Congratulations. So very pleased to share with you that yesterday we had our ongoing conversation with SACS COC, our vice president there, Dr. Crystal Baird, and we have established a date for their visit, which is going to be the week of April 9th. Before I get into more of the detail of things, there's not enough time for me just to say thank you to this board, to our president, to his team, especially Mr. Bill Tulak, and a host of others that are working like we're the only college in the system. Also want to thank my colleagues. We presented there was like an evolution of accreditation. Dr. Christine Strickland, Dr. Jada Spillers, and Dr. Daniel Roberts and I presented on just where we all are in the evolution of not just colleges as individuals, but also as system, and how we've come from COE, where there's 2 colleges that are still accredited. And it was really eye-opening, even for the folks who were in the presentation, because you just kind of see how things have unfolded. I'm very grateful to them. And I'm just grateful to a Bobcat team that's back in Central Louisiana every day, putting their hand to the wheel to make forward progress. As Bill Tulak could attest to, we meet periodically, sometimes once every week, and we talk about, okay, what's the next big time trial that we're trying to get to. So we're very pleased to say that we are on time to be able to hit certain time trials, as I said, that where we have the semblance of a very finalized for review internally and a little bit externally. I want to thank Mr. Chulak and some of the other colleges. Had a conversation with Chancellor Bateman this morning, where some of the internal subject matter experts are doing with colleges like North Shore and Fletcher and Delgado and BRCC have done for us in the past. So we want to be a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of what we do. So the 9th is working backwards. The 9th is when they come. We have to have between 30 and 45 days a final application for their review. Right before that, we will have what we hope is the final legislative audit, full scope audit, our 5th in a row, that will be done in late February. And SAC-COC will have an opportunity to read in mid-January. They want to see the finished product with the exemption of the legislative audit. So all of our efforts are going in that direction so that we can be on time, if not a little bit ahead. And again, thank you all very, very much.
So Chancellor Sawtelle, so the April 9th date is the date of the physical visit. The action by SACS would not happen until the June 2024 meeting, right?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very good. So this is the last step, guys, of what in many instances has been a decade-long process. I can't even begin to express to you the amount of effort, work, funding that has gone into making this happen. So I do want to congratulate the Bobcat team. And I do want to share one other thing with you. You know, we saw mascots at this past week's conference, right? I have yet to see the Bobcat mascot and Bill Tulak at the same time. I'm beginning to wonder. Right? Thank you both for incredible work.
If I may add one more statement, certainly want to thank our Bobcat team, as you said, led by Dr. Heather Poole, who is working every day on this. But in the timing of what it is, heaven forbid, but if for some reason this was not a success, then we have another full scope audit to go through. And that full scope audit would have to be done as soon as humanly possible. And then we'd have to update all of our application. And then it would almost be like you're adding an entire other layer to it. We don't want that. We're working to win, and we're working to win in a very timely fashion, because the alternative just brings a whole lot more of delay. So thank you again.
Incredible to hear you say it in the way that you just did, because it's such a part of the DNA of this organization. We're not an organization that waits, and thank you for your leadership, Chancellor. Any questions for either of the two of our chancellors or for Mr. Tulak? All right, thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you, Chancellors. Item 2 is review and advisement revisions to LCTCS policy number 2.004, student conduct and appeals procedures. Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, sir. I'll ask Dr. Blair, if she will, to walk us through this item. It is again an item for review and advisement, so not for action today, but I certainly want to make sure you know the direction.
Good morning, members of the board. President Sullivan, nice to see you. So this policy is in direct response to Act 464 that was passed in the 2022 legislation or session. And it makes a more robust due process for student conduct cases, very much in line with what a Title IX procedure would look like. And so this is going to provide hearings for things like interim measures so that students aren't taken out of college without consistent and direct consideration of the case and the immediate threat that it might pose. So the staff recommends that the board accept for review and advisement the revisions to LCTCS policy 2.004, student conduct and appeal procedures.
So this was for review and advisement. Okay, Dr. Sullivan.
So I think that clears the items, and so we can turn to facilities.
All right. Next, we'll have Supervisor Stevie Smith present the facilities action items for consideration by the board.
Surely, Madam Chair. The first one is the capital outlay request for next year. I think, Joe, you're going to walk us line by line through all the projects in our capital outlay request.
Yes, sir. We'll be out of here about 8 p.m. tonight. Thank you.
Yes. I'm going to go to the restroom and get a cup of coffee. You can go ahead and start.
Notify your close of kin and whoever else you'd like to. Yes, sir. This is so just background quickly. This is part of the capital outlay process. We came before you in the June meeting to give you a preliminary list of those recommendations, to give you time to review those lists and make any recommendations that you may see necessary. This is the second step of this process by which we come before you for action that which will then formalize your seal of approval on this list of recommendations, which go to the Board of Regents, who in turn take the capital outlay list of all the 4 higher education systems, LSU, Southern, UL, and ourselves, and amalgamizes them into a priority that they then, as a board, act on and then send to the Division of Administration and the legislature as their recommendation of projects. So I do want to point out that just the fact that we may have some projects here that are a priority to us doesn't necessarily guarantee that it will be a priority to the Board of Regents. So just keep that in mind as things go through. Before you, we have basically, I think it's $561 million in projects. These are old existing projects that we have currently going on in place. These are some new campuses that we are asking to move forward. And a good bit of it, a good chunk of it also is related to deferred maintenance projects throughout the state that are necessary. We have asking a pool of money of about $20 million for our system. And there's also specific requests for specific campuses for roofs and other types of projects. So with that said, I'll read the recommendation. Yep. Staff recommends that the board approve the fiscal year 24-25 capital outlay list of recommended projects and authorize the president to make any technical corrections to the request that may be necessary before final submission to the Board of Regents.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion and a second?
Motion by Wood. Second by Butler McIntyre.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Does anybody have questions for Joe regarding this capital outlay request? Hearing none, does anybody have any objections to this motion? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you, Joe. The next one is a site selection for Louisiana Delta Community College in Farmerville. Joe, you going to take this, or is that Dr. Sullivan going to handle this one?
No, I'll take it.
Okay.
So just a bit of background. Back in the 2022 regular sessions, the legislature appropriated $18 million to Delta for the development of a campus in Union Parish. It was an $18 million appropriation, of which $500,000 was given in cash. And so why is that important? The $500,000 in cash allowed the college to initiate discussions and processes in terms of a site selection for that site. Feeling that really it's a unique site. They do not want to have a campus or do not think it's in the best interest of the college or the system, really, for that matter, to develop a campus that we might have traditionally thought of as your technical skills trade campus. They really want to make it more so developed for specific to wildlife, fisheries, types of sportsman training that needs to take place. It would be the only one in the state. And so they asked, given our long relationship with CSRS, who's been with us and with many projects throughout the state, almost, 15 years now, to serve as a consultant, basically to come in and set down a proposal, to develop a proposal, to publish it, to gather feedback from individuals who may be interested, and to basically make a recommendation to this board to act on. They have recently done so in the last few weeks. We have a recommendation for a site. We had 2 proposals, and they were both good proposals. One of them was from Dillatry Property Rentals, LLC, and the other from TTR, LLC. Ultimately, in the end, keeping the Sportsman Paradise theme in mind, CSRS recommended that we go with TTR, LLC as the site selection for this campus. As such, staff recommends that the board approve the site selected for the Farmerville campus of Louisiana Delta Community College and authorize the president and the chancellor of the college to negotiate the purchase price of the property and execute all documents necessary to acquire the site proposed by TTR LLC Group. Because capital outlay funds will be used, facility planning and control will be the principal entity responsible for the final purchase of the site. A map depicting the location of the proposed site is available in the office of the Vice President of Operations.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Board members, do I hear a motion to approve the recommendation?
Okay, motion by Zarang, second by Payne.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions on this item, or do we have further information, Dr. Sullivan, anybody? Or?
There we are.
There you go.
The only thing I would add is that we do anticipate that there could be additional dollars that would be added to this mix at the next bond commission meeting, which is coming up about, I think, Joe, in probably a week and a half.
October 19th.
There we are.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So do we have questions from the board members? Anyone? Do we have any objections to this motion? Hearing none, that motion carries, and those are the facility action items.
Thank you. Next, we have Supervisor Chip Jackson to present the finance action items for consideration by the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First item is FY 2023-24 operating budget for LCTCS entities.
Yes, sir. Supervisor Jackson. Some of you may be wondering why we're coming here before you again, because we had a similar item recently in the last board meeting. The last board meeting or before that, we basically came before you with an idea or an approval of an allocation of funding to our colleges, but you did not at that point in time have the operating budgets of our colleges. They were closing out the prior fiscal year. They were still developing their budgets for the current fiscal year in terms of spreading those resources across their budgets and so forth. So as part of the process, as I just explained with capital outlay, it's a similar process with the operating budget. You as a management board, as part of your fiscal financial duty, is to act on and approve the operating budgets of our colleges before we submit them to the Board of Regents, who then as a whole, Board of Regents gathers them from all the colleges and the universities in the state. They take formal action, and they in turn submit them to the legislature and the Division of Administration. So this is that step for that formal approval of the operating budgets of our colleges. As I said before, looking at our funding over time, comparing last year to this year, you may notice that there is on paper, very important to say that on paper, a $12 million decrease in our state funding. That decrease relates to decreases that were removed in terms of budget authority for funds that were given to us in fiscal year 23 for reboot and broadband and other initiatives that we spent. So therefore since we spent those dollars, they're recognizing that they have been spent and they're non-recurring those off of our budgets. In truth, we had an $18.5 million increase in funding, either through the funding formula, faculty pay raises, and other things. So on paper, it's a net decrease of 12 million, but in essence, we did receive $18 million more this year than over last year. And just to give you a bit of an idea, our budget is roughly $365.5 million, of which 195.4 is from the state and 170 is from our self-generated revenues. So you get that idea that in the past 20 years ago, we were mainly funded by the state, 85 to 90%. We are now roughly at a 55-45 split. And enrollment obviously becomes a very important part of this equation, because that's what drives your tuition revenues. And that's the area that we have the most control over. As such, staff recommends that the board approve the fiscal year 23-24 operating budget allocations of the LCTCS colleges and board office.
Thank you, Joe. I like the way you count.
I wish I could count the other way a little more, sometimes on that state side.
Always winds up on the right side. You've heard the recommendation from staff. Is there a motion?
Motion by Smith, seconded by Zarang.
Any discussion? Any objection? If no objection, the motion passes. The next item, item 6, cooperative endeavor agreement between Central Louisiana Technical Community College and BDI Data Link LLC.
Correct. Yes, sir. This is really a technical item. This is a CEA that the board took action in May to approve to provide curriculum, instructor course materials and equipment for non-credit programs and certified optics to students at CLTC. That contract that CEA, excuse me, is coming to an end in November. And as a technical requirement of the state requires that the board take action to extend it, which is what is happening here. The college is asking for the board to extend this contract, not increase any of the cost or fees. They remain the same, but it's just the time frame and the runway necessary needed to see it through. Such, staff recommends that the board approve a cooperative endeavor agreement, CEA, between Central Louisiana Technical Community College and BDI Data Link LLC, effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. This CEA is subject to the approval of the Office of State Procurement.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion by Lee, seconded by Johnson.
Any discussion or questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 7, professional services contract between LCTCS and Aleutian Support, Inc.
Yes, sir. This is a longstanding contract that we've had with Aleutian. To give some just basic background, Aleutian, we are one of the few, if not maybe the only system colleges in the nation that Aleutian has a one instance of banner that serves multiple campuses. Normally, outside of this state, they serve only a college by college basis. And as a part of that, we need modifications that need to be maintained for integrating a lot of processes and data across all our colleges. One of them simply being, for example, W-2s for our employees. We have employees that are employed across sometimes multiple campuses and colleges. So instead of getting multiple W-2s that they then have to add up together and so forth, we have a process, an automated process through this modification that basically rolls them up and submits a single W-2. Now, that's on the employee side. On the student side, we have an application process that helps students apply to our colleges. And it's, again, one application that serves multiple colleges. So that's one of the modifications that we do. As in hindsight, or not in hindsight, but just to give you some background information, the cost of this contract is about $168,000. It's been roughly that for the last 7 years. I think we started off at 150. We've had slight escalators over time. It's $168,000. Consequently, staff recommends that the board authorize the system president to execute a contract between the LCTCS and Aleutian Support Incorporated for maintenance services effective December 1, 2023 through November 30th of 2024.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation from staff. Is there a motion?
Move approved.
Motion by Smith, seconded by Johnson.
Any discussion or questions?
Just one item, Mr. Chairman. So again, and we talked about this yesterday, the idea that we manage some of those functions centrally and the efficiency, the two efficiencies you just described, which are only a couple of them, again, I think is a benefit of how we run this system. It makes it seamless for an employee to provide services in multiple schools, right? And so what you talk about is a back office function that makes that easier. And that's something we ought to continue to do. We emphasized that yesterday, Dr. Sullivan. And then again, the common access portal for our customers, which is our students, in case they need to go from one school to another school, and making that much simpler than if you transfer from a university to another university.
Right.
That is a tremendous benefit to our customers, everybody, and we want to continue to do that. That's what makes us better. I almost said special, but let's say better, right? Better. So
I would agree.
Just a great, very kind of backroom office kind of administrative discussion, but this is better than making it difficult for that person to work at two schools or making it difficult for that student to go between schools. This is better.
Correct. And another piece on the student side, on the customer side is once they're in and they start moving to college, those credits that they get at one college automatically articulate to other colleges. I just went through a process at a large institution in Baton Rouge where my daughters and others had to send them a transcript and call them, go through the process. It was not easy.
Large institution you're talking about. It's okay. It's all right.
Go Bengals.
Stop.
Stop.
Yeah. Anyway, so next item, I guess, Mr. Chair.
Well said, Supervisor Smith. You've heard any other discussion? If none, any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 8, establishment of a foundation for Central Louisiana Technical Community College.
Yes, sir. There'll be two items. It's two similar items, this one and another one following. As part, again, of your fiduciary duty, you are required to approve foundations for our colleges. And not to say that Central has not had a foundation. To give a little bit of a background, upon its creation, they established a sub-account under the LCTCS Foundation to help serve as that intermediary. But they are now at a point where they feel comfortable that they have the resources available, and henceforth they're coming before the board for action to formalize and create their own legal separate entity, 501c3 for your approval. And again, it's something that complies with policy 5.017. So your board action is needed to, in essence, formalize and memorialize that foundation as a recognized foundation created for the college. Consequently, staff recommends that the board approve the proposed articles of incorporation, bylaws, and the cooperative endeavor agreement for the formation of a foundation for the Central Louisiana Technical Community College, CLTCC.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion by Butler McIntyre.
Second.
Second by Hollins.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. Similar item 9, establishment of a foundation for Northwest Louisiana Community Technical Community College. Excuse me.
Yes, sir. And this one is indeed a new foundation for an establishment of a new foundation for the college. They are coming before you again with their articles of incorporation and other legal documents for your formal approval and ratification, as we just did for Central. Staff recommends that the board approve the proposed articles of incorporation, bylaws, and the cooperative endeavor agreement for the formation of a foundation for the Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College, NLTCC.
Thank you, Joe. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion by Wood. Seconded by Butler McIntyre.
Any discussion or questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Last item, Madam Chair, modification to the ground lease and facilities.
Excuse me, Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Before we move off, so now we have one at Central and we have one at Northwest, and all you gotta do is try and keep up with Neil, right? And Jim, show them how to pick up $250,000 personal checks. Show them how you do that. They don't know how to do that, so. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, actually, that should be a requirement before we vote.
That's right. That's where so you gotta be back here in 30 days,
I
right?
like that, Supervisor Smith. I'm sorry. Any objection? Any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. And last item, modification to the ground lease and facilities lease agreements at LCTCS member colleges.
Right. This one's a little complicated, so I'll try to make it very easy. Back in 2007, there was an act proposed and passed, Act 391, which created alternatively financed and bonded projects for the LCTCS. So these bonds are again, legal documents, they're legal obligations. And as part of that process, we began a construction process of purchasing land and building buildings. So in essence, a couple of years past 2013, Act 360, a similar act is passed by the legislature, and which does basically the same thing as Act 391. You issue a new series of bonds. You buy either land if necessary to build projects, or in some cases you build on existing land, either at the college or land that has been purchased by Act 391 bonds. So you have land that has been purchased by one series of bonds with a building being built with another series of bonds. So this action, what this does basically is realign, true up, and basically memorialize those actions as these documents, once they are approved by you, will be sent off to the courthouses of those parishes where those lands reside for them to be formally filed and kept. And we have a few projects here just as a case in point. The Delgado West Bank campus, the Fletcher Technical Community College Schriever campus, Sewell Lake Charles campus, and Nunez Chalmette campus. Are there any questions?
Yes. So in the past, how did we handle that individually by campus?
They normally do them both individually or normally in tranches. You build out a couple of projects, and then you execute legal documents to shore them up, get them filed, which we did with Act 391. So those documents have been filed, but they've been filed. So now we've got to come back behind them with Act 360 projects, some of them that reside on Act 391 bonded land, to basically true up and realign and recognize those relationships, and then send those documents off to those courthouses.
Okay.
Staff recommends that the board authorize the president to negotiate and execute all documents necessary to modify the ground lease and facility lease agreements at various LCTCS sites to allow the construction of facilities using Act 360 funds, and to accurately reflect the proper bond sale, mortgage agreement, and indenture agreements associated with the bond sale for these projects.
Thank you. You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
Motion by Smith, seconded by Zarang.
Any discussion or questions? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Madam Chair.
Mr.
Go
Chair,
ahead.
before we shift away from facilities, can I just say, from this board's perspective, what an absolute incredible resource Joe Marine is to help us walk through some of this very detailed items that can get us in trouble somewhere down the line. Joe, this board and the staff and these chancellors are indebted to you forever. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's what we do. We hire smart people.
It's all in a day's work.
And Joe, thank you for reading all this stuff.
Thank you. I think there's more to come.
All right, so personnel. So Supervisor Chip Jackson presents the personnel action items for consideration by the board. Supervisor Jackson.
Madam Chair, I request that like to ask for a motion to enter into executive session to discuss items H11 through H17.
I so move.
Motion by Murphy, seconded by Johnson.
Any objection?
I'm
At
gonna-
this time.
Going to roll call.
Yeah, I think it's a roll call.
At this time, I'll take a roll call. Chair Mount
Yes.
is yes. Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Butler McIntyre?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Hollins?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Johnson? Yes. Supervisor Lee?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Murphy?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Smith?
Yes.
Supervisor Wood? Yes. Supervisor Payne?
Yes.
Yes. Supervisor Zarang? Yes. Roll call has been established.
All right.
We go.
Good job. Yeah.
No one wants it. And hold on.
and state that no votes were taken and no consensus was reached during the executive session. And
At
we'll
this
have
time?
Ms. Poole, if you'll call for a quorum.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'll call roll. Chair Mount,
Present.
Supervisor Jackson,
Present.
Supervisor Butler. McIntyre is here. Supervisor Hollins
Present.
is present. Supervisor Johnson is present. Supervisor Lee is present. Supervisor Murphy
Here.
is here. Supervisor Smith
Here.
is here. Supervisor Wood is here. Supervisor Payne,
Here.
Supervisor Zarang is here. Okay, at this time, Madam Chair, we do have a quorum established.
Right. Again, I'd like Supervisor Chip Jackson to continue to present the personnel action items for consideration by the board.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Number 11, pending and potential litigation or settlement authority. For board information, no vote needed. Any discussion? Number 12, appointment of chancellor for North Shore Technical Community College. Joe.
There we go. Technology works. Yes, sir. The next item that we have before the board is the appointment of chancellor for North Shore Technical Community College. As many of you know, Dr. Jim Carlson has been with the system for a long time and has served in many leadership capacities in recent years, both at RPCC and North Shore during those transition periods of leadership there. Given that consideration and his longstanding service to the college, we are bringing before you an item recommending his appointment as chancellor of North Shore Technical Community College. I'll read the recommendation. For compelling and exigent circumstances, staff recommends the board grant an exception to policy 6.032 and appoint Dr. Jim Carlson as chancellor of North Shore Technical Community College with an employment contract effective October 16th, 2023 through December 31st, 2026. Staff further recommends a fair and equitable chancellor package consisting of an annual base salary of $200,000, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a college vehicle, a civic organizations or allowance of $2,500, and an employer-sponsored deferred compensation package of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $255,000.
I move appointment of Dr. Jim Carlson as the new chancellor for the North Shore Technical Community College.
Motion by Murphy, seconded by Lee.
Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Congratulations, Dr. Yemen, would you like to come down and say a few words?
I was afraid my legs may not work on the way down. It's a surreal moment. You know, I started higher ed in 1998 as an instructor of speech communication at Jones Junior College. And to fast forward 25 years, I only had one mission, that was to help other people. And I'm still getting to do that, just in a different capacity. So on behalf of my wife, I want to say thank you all for this opportunity, and the best is yet to come.
Madam Chair, the next item is performance evaluations of LCTCS chancellors. Dr. Sullivan.
Let the record reflect that the board had a robust discussion about chancellor evaluations based upon the policy as it is currently stated. Part A of that evaluation, as is indicated and has been indicated to our chancellors, deals specifically with the one data point of targets for each college toward accomplishing the 330,000 graduates, and then the additional Part B. So that was the discussion around evaluation, and no action was taken within executive session.
Don't need any. The next item is LCTCS Chancellor Contract Recommendations.
Yes, sir. I'll read the recommendation. It's a lengthy one. Given compensation and contract comparisons of LCTCS chancellors to those in similar positions statewide and nationally, in addition to factoring performance goals, the LCTCS president recommends the following changes to contracts and compensation packages for LCTCS chancellors with an effective date of October 16th, 2023 as follows. Neil Aspinwall, Chancellor of Saguala Technical Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $234,377, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $35,000 for a total compensation package of $304,377 through December 31st, 2028. Douglas Rick Bateman, Chancellor of Bossier Parish Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $213,022, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $268,022 through December 31st, 2027. Randall Lesters, Chancellor of Louisiana Delta Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $204,000, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $259,000 through December 31st, 2027. Vincent June, Chancellor of South Louisiana Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $204,000, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $259,000 through December 31st, 2027. Larissa Littleton Stive, Chancellor of Delgado Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $248,848, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $303,848 through December 31st, 2028. James Jimmy Sawtelle, Chancellor of Central Louisiana Technical Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $198,898, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $253,898 through December 31st, 2027. Willie Smith, Senior, Chancellor of Baton Rouge Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $223,778, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $278,778 through December 31st, 2028. Jada Spillers, Chancellor of Northwest Louisiana Technical Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $183,600, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $238,600 through December 31st, 2026. Christine Strickland, Chancellor of Fletcher Technical Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $202,274, housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $25,000 for a total compensation package of $262,274 through December 31st, 2028. Quentin Taylor, Chancellor of River Parishes Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $193,800, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $20,000 for a total compensation package of $248,800 through December 31st, 2026. Tina Tenney, Chancellor of Nunes Community College, with an annual compensation package comprised of a base salary of $202,856, a housing allowance of $25,000, a vehicle allowance of $7,500 or the use of a state vehicle, a civic organization allowance of $2,500, and a deferred retirement contribution of $25,000, for a total compensation package of $262,856 through December 31st, 2028. Furthermore, each chancellor contract will include an annualized base salary escalator clause of 2.5%, pending the attainment of annual performance goals and assuming the availability of sufficient college funds.
Joe, can you repeat that?
I'm going into car sales radio commercial shortly.
Give me the call.
Okay, we've heard the recommendations.
I think you need a motion, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve that recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Motion by Smith, seconded by Murphy.
Any discussion?
Item of discussion, Mr. Chairman. So again, we briefly touched on the evaluations and here are the contract amendments. Guys, y'all doing a great job. Or ladies and gentlemen, is probably a better way to say that, right?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, you're doing a great job. We appreciate your work. Keep doing it.
I'll just follow up with that and say, thank you so much for your commitment, your passion, your leadership. Each and every one of you, you really are the difference makers each and every day. So we really recognize and appreciate your commitment.
Any other discussion? I too would just like to say thank you to all of our chancellors. You are an outstanding leadership team, and we're very fortunate to have you. Is there any more discussion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 15, performance evaluation of LCTCS president. I think that's where we are.
And the chair of the board and personnel committee chair recommend that due to Dr. Sullivan's recent exemplary performance evaluation in accordance with LCTCS.
Oh, Chair Mount, I think that's on the next item. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
What?
So
Oh, okay. All right. I've jumped ahead.
So
All right.
performance evaluation of LCTCS, that's my mistake. Performance evaluation of LCTCS president. For board information, no vote needed. Item 16, LCTCS system president contract recommendation.
All right, I'll begin this again. The chair of the board and the personnel committee chair recommend that due to Dr. Sullivan's recent exemplary performance evaluation and in accordance with the LCTC board policy number 6.005, evaluation process for LCTCS president, we are requesting the extension of Dr. Sullivan's contract through December 31st, 2028. The Personnel Committee requests that Dr. Sullivan's compensation package remain the same with an annual base pay of $439,725,000, housing allowance of $50,000, auto allowance of $24,000, and Dr. Sullivan's deferred compensation retirement contribution will remain the same as described in his current contract amendment, along with other contract stipulations and terms. We're also requesting that Dr. Joe Mayor and Vice President of Operations at the board office be notified of this implementation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You've heard the recommendation coming from our chair. Is there a motion?
Motion by
move.
Zarang, seconded by Wood.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, any objection? Motion carries.
Again, it goes without saying, right, Supervisor Jackson, we have the superstar. And we will be committed to continue to keep him and holding on to him. We just appreciate your passion, your hard work, your ability to bring everyone together. You have a wonderful team and you're leading that team in a beautiful way. And we just stand ready to support you in any and all ways.
So much. Very much appreciate this team. Thank you for the work that each one of you did. Appreciate it. Overwhelming, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Item 17, board self-evaluation in accordance with section 18 of the bylaws and SACSCOC standard 4.2G.
I'll take it and read it into the minutes. I'll give a little bit of the background. At the May 2018 board meeting, the board approved the amendment to the bylaws regarding the annual participation in a self-evaluation, section 1.8 board. Board of self-evaluation. The purpose of the evaluation is to give board members the opportunity to evaluate how effective the full board functions in fulfilling its duties, and two, gives the board members the opportunity to assess their own performance. The results of the survey are reviewed throughout the year to make improvements to the effectiveness of the board. As such, staff recommends that the board acknowledge receipt and review of the attached summary of results for the Board of Supervisors 2023 board self-evaluation.
Just,
Need a motion.
okay. We've heard the recommendation from staff. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to accept that board self-evaluation.
Motion by Smith, seconded by Butler McIntyre.
Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion carries. Madam Chair, I believe that ends all of the personnel.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor Jackson. Excellent job. Please refer to the updates and that are listed on your agenda and encourage members to review that information to keep you up to business. Is there any additional business that needs to come before the board?
In light of the time, Madam Chair, I'd like to filibuster for at least 25 minutes. So I don't have to give Monty Sullivan the $5 I got in my wallet.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, what should we do about that?
Well, what I like to do is I like to review enrollment at each school one by one. You're up, Chancellor Tenney first. No, ma'am.
No. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I would like to bring to your attention, though, on the reports, we do this every year, the usage of educational assistance. That is an item that some of you have had a great interest in terms of benefits that we provide our employees, their spouses and children. That's towards the end of the report, but just a summary. Last year alone, and we do this annually, and it's been averaging roughly this, we provided 457 types of tuition scholarship assistance to our employees, either whether it's work-related to their children or themselves, totaling roughly $450,000 in tuition benefits. So I just want to make that point and bring it to your attention.
Excellent. Ms. Poole, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments
Okay,
at this
thank
time.
All right. Hearing no other new business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a second.
Motion by Wood, seconded by Zerang.
Any objection? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Well, very good. It's good because we're out of cough drops.